Bruce in The Batman is on a path of vengeance, and while him beating up criminals is just a Batman thing, his mentality regarding that is something you might subconsciously adapt as well, which unfortunately can be harmful. What's up everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm gonna talk about Bruce's arc in The Batman and how he has two mentalities that are relevant for our well-being. One could be bad for your mental health and the other can improve it. I will be telling you this by analyzing The Batman and Bruce's arc in the movie, and of course talk about what you can learn from him to be happier. Let's get right into it. So the harmful mentality I just talked about is Bruce's choice to block the light. We all know Bruce is super traumatized in this movie. Trauma can be natural. Of course you would be traumatized if you saw your parents get shot in front of you. What's less natural though is if someone would overly fixate on that negative event, which plays out in multiple ways. Bruce becomes so fixated on his trauma that he lets vengeance eat him up. It's literally the only thing he cares about, and Matt Reeves states that Batman is his addiction. He pushes Alfred and everyone else away without realizing that he's only making life worse. What's part of this though is that with all this negative fixation, he's also blocking the light. This moment right here where he puts his sunglasses on when the sun is shining is a funny moment, but it's actually the core of his character, because that is what he is doing for the whole movie. He is seeing things in black and he doesn't allow any positive or other nuanced perspective in his life. Perspective about the world, but also the way he handles his crusade and internal state. But like I said, these sunglasses and blocking of light isn't just relevant to Bruce, it's relevant to the whole movie. Riddler is a direct cause of this mentality because, like Bruce, he too was traumatized and fixates on that by terrorizing the city. And of course Catwoman, who also wants to take revenge on Falcone for killing her mom, but not realizing that will ruin her even more. This kind of fixation is not just relevant for the movie, it's not just relevant to topics of revenge, but it's similar to how we can think about negative experiences. Like Bruce and all the others, negative experiences can send us on a path of binary thinking, where the negative view of the situation takes control. Whether that is a traumatic event, a bad period in our lives, bad circumstances, the way we've been treated, and so much more. The fixation on those negative events can become dominant, and we all know how unhealthy negative thinking is for our mental health. It can become the definitive mindset we adapt regarding the situation or in life in general. And like Bruce, we also block the light because we also look at these things with dark sunglasses on. Positive or more nuanced ways of thinking are hard to absorb because the fixation and negative mindset is so hardened in. Another thing that is in line with this is that after a while, that negative mindset also can become the logical way of thinking. I personally feel like that those negative thoughts become sensical if we're not careful and keep blocking the light. At a certain point, we can almost view that negative thinking as the objective reality. I would not be saying this if I wasn't talking from experience, because if I can give a personal example regarding this mentality, in real life I have a stutter. You don't hear it in my videos because I'm alone when I do a voiceover, but when I'm with people I do stutter. It used to be a lot worse, and I've had some experiences where people would laugh, look weird, make fun, or think there's something wrong with me. As you can expect, that has had an effect on the way I think about my stutter. Because I would be lying if I said I don't see it as a curse from time to time. Or the fact that I sometimes fixate on people's reactions and being scared that they will laugh. Even though I'm talking with my best friends and I know they would never have any intentions like that. And if one word takes a little bit longer to say, I have 1,000 thoughts going in my head tell me that I look bad and that I should finish the sentence as fast as possible. That fear and unacceptance of my stutter has been there for so long, and I never even tried to balance the thoughts or look at it in other ways, because that binary thinking has been dominant without me even realizing. I think everyone has had a fixation on negative experiences that define their mentality. And if we go back to the movie but also think about the concept in general, Bruce takes the negative binary thinking even further in one specific, but extreme way. An extreme form of this thinking is when one has suicidal tendencies. I'm not an expert on this at all, but being suicidal can mean you see everything as black. This is super relevant to Bruce's character because it's not far-fetched to think that Bruce has had suicidal tendencies in the movie. I once again have a guest in this video, which is my great friend Mo, who will elaborate on why this is the case for Bruce.
Thank you so much, Yassine. I'm so glad to be back here doing another video and following up on that tremendous analysis. I do agree that Bruce has suicidal tendencies, but not in the traditional way. You see, the movie tiptoes around the idea that Batman may not just be a heroic quest, but more of a coping mechanism. So, how is Bruce suicidal? You can tell from the way he handles himself that he simply does not give a damn. He goes in irresponsibly through gunfire, takes massive risks, and almost gets killed like a million times. Seriously, if it weren't for that bulletproof suit, he would have been gone. Like, so gone. The way he just waltzes into battle gives you a sense that deep down he knows this is how he'll go out, and maybe he even craves it. Selina even tells him to, and his reaction seems to imply that deep down, he just accepted it and embraced it. In medieval times, warriors used to go into battle with the goal of winning, but the complete willingness to die fighting. It was perceived as honor. I mean, I guess it still kinda is. Bruce is so deeply traumatized that he doesn't even seem to have much of a long-term plan, and he definitely does not care about what happens to Bruce Wayne himself. Like, seriously, the company could go bankrupt tomorrow. But if he's willing to do this long term, then at least he needs funding, but he's just giving everything up. He doubts that he's making a difference in the beginning, so he just doesn't care, but I mean, that's a lesson that he's gonna learn later. Obviously, Bruce would never actually kill himself because he has placed a massive responsibility on his shoulders and dedicated himself to this crusade. Bruce is convinced that what he's doing is best for the city, at least that's what he says. But the way he thinks about saving the city is not what's best for it or even himself.
But of course, if Bruce would keep thinking like this for the whole movie, he wouldn't be a superhero. Because he starts to adapt the mentality that is actually good for mental health, and that is opening up to light. What I find so nice about the Batman is that it naturally changes Bruce before he completes his arc and gets to this mentality. First he opens up to Alfred, and then he stops Selina from acting on revenge and ruining herself. But the biggest shift of mentality comes within this moment. That is when Batman violently attacks this Riddler thug. Everything that happens in the scene is relevant to his arc. He's super aggressive here because of the venom, but that beating could not have been placed better. It is something he has been doing for the whole movie, which is why the following moment is so quintessential.
Who the hell are you? I'm vengeance.
It all becomes coherent because that aggressive beating, that intent for vengeance he manifested for the whole movie is exactly the same as Riddler Scold's motivation. And when Bruce realizes this, he can finally see the damage he's causing, look at it from a different perspective, and open up to light. This sequence is absolutely beautiful because of how Batman becomes a light in the darkness. The cinematography, the symbolism, everything is just so good. But Bruce's monologue is truly where the heart of the movie lies. Him realizing that vengeance and fixation shouldn't control you is how he finally lets the light shine on his dark past. Bruce turning trauma into hope has to be the most Batman thing ever. The way he realizes that darkness doesn't always have to remain dark and that there can be light added is one of the best forms of hope. And we can adapt this mentality as well. Because like I said, some things can paint our thinking black, and like Bruce said, our scars can destroy us. But that doesn't mean light can shine through or even take over. That doesn't mean we can't turn those adversities into something good or look at the positive sides of the situation and try to absorb that. I mentioned that my stutter and the negative experiences I've had with it has locked me into negative thinking. But recently, after this movie and after some therapy sessions, I started to look at it in a more nuanced way. I've been trying to accept it, but also realized that the amount of confidence it would give me to fully embrace my stutter would be very meaningful to me. And I'm also trying to let go of the thoughts that I look silly or that people are gonna laugh, because that comes from a binary mindset I had that just isn't useful, and I don't have to stay there. So think about all of this in your own life. Think of the way you have perhaps clinged on negative mentalities. Think about how it can consume you and how useful that mentality actually is. Then ask yourself, what is a way for you to add light to your situations? Is your situation all bad, or are there positive aspects of it, and can you embrace those? Can you think more nuanced about it and perhaps in a more positive way? That can mean turning the negative aspects into something good, for example. Do you leave tragedy as just tragedy, or do you think it can teach you things like appreciation for life or community? Can you see the bigger picture and potentially open up to light? Whatever your situation or scars are, look for the light in the situation and let that transform you. But this isn't the only action guide you can take away from the movie, because if we go back to Bruce and his suicidal tendencies, we haven't discussed that part of his arc yet, and most importantly, what you can specifically take from that. Mo started it, so I'm gonna leave it to him to finish it.
Like I said, he doubts if he's even making a difference, but it's not until the end when he realizes that he is actually needed, and the people of Gotham would come to rely on him as that character going on. And other people like Alfred would need him as Bruce Wayne. When things are tough, it's easy to just lose hope like he did at the beginning and accept the idea of quitting or even death. Oftentimes, even if someone isn't suicidal and would never actually harm themselves, they may not care if someone told them that today was their last day, because they're not all that invested in life to begin with. That's why the moment with the injured citizen holding Batman's hand is so important. It shows him that he does have a purpose and that he isn't just expendable. That's why I think he'll also be way more responsible and careful in the next movies, because yeah, he needs to do this for a long time and not get shot like a million times. And so should you, because everyone has a place in this puzzle we call life. Every piece fits together, and even if you still haven't found your piece and the piece that your piece connects to, without you, these pieces may never form a full image. Seriously, think of your friends and family and the people around you and your job and like your town, if you're like a small town. Think of everything around you as your own Gotham. If you took yourself out of it, you never know what bad could happen. It's like at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. Think about if you had your own Clarence and you just took yourself out of the timeline, what would change? And I'm betting it would change for the worst, because there are things that we do and things that we will do that change so much in a domino effect, and you may never know. You may never know the impact that you have on somebody else's life.
And if you want a small way for a piece of you to connect like Mo just said, you can drop us a like, because when you do that, YouTube will recommend this video to other people. More people will hopefully get inspired by this video, and you would have contributed to helping people who might need to hear this. Personally, I love messages like this, but I need to keep it regularly in mind if I want to absorb it and actually let it change me. And if you want that as well, or just like videos, essays in general, you can subscribe to this channel to stay regularly inspired or regularly entertained. I want to thank Mo a lot, because I genuinely think he pulled out something very inspirational from the Batman. That's the thing I like about these collabs, because while I do resonate so much with his speech, I could not say it or even come up with that specific topic the way he does. You're gonna see him again in my videos, probably with the next Doctor Strange video I plan on doing. I also want to thank my friend Deshaun on Twitter for inspiring me with the concept of this video when I was still figuring out what to do with it. I hope you got inspired by this video. Let me know what you thought of the Batman in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.